Hello, thank you for coming. I would like to start us off with just a little bit of audience participation. I know. Who judges people here? It's okay. Hands up. I saw you before. It's okay. I do it all the time. And I know she said I'm in the Department of Psychology, but I'm not going to chastise you for judging others. We do it all the time. But how do we judge others? What are some of the attributes that you think of when you're making those judgments of others? Do you judge them on if they're friendly, if they're generous, if they're driven, and if they're hardworking? Or maybe you judge them if they're mean, if they're selfish, if they're unambitious, or if they're lazy. And what all of these attributes have in common is that they can be boiled down to two categories: warmth and competence. And that's the first concept that I'd like to discuss today. It's called the stereotype content model. And it says that our perceptions of others can be boiled down to two categories: their warmth and their competence. Warmth first asks about intentions. Do they have good or bad intentions towards me? Competence asks about ability. Can they act on those good or bad intentions? Relating back to my last slide, examples of warmth are friendly and generous, or mean and selfish. Examples of competence are driven and hardworking, or unambitious and lazy. It's worth noting that past research has shown that we value perceptions of warmth far more than perceptions of competence when making judgments of others. Not only does the stereotype content model show how we can judge others based on warmth and competence, but the bias map, which stands for the behavior from intergroup effect and stereotypes map, shows how we can act on those perceptions of warmth and competence and how we treat people based on those perceptions. First, we have a blank diagram of the stereotype content model, with competence being on our horizontal x axis and warmth being on our vertical y axis. Based on those perceptions of warmth and competence, that determines where someone falls on this map. Here, we have the bias map. The blue arrows show how we behave towards someone based on where they fall, and the red arrows show the emotions that we feel towards that person. Not only do the stereotype content model and the bias map show how we behave towards other people based on our perceptions of warmth and competence, but those perceptions can also be applied to non human entities. And that's the second concept that I'd like to discuss with you all today. And that is anthropomorphism. That is ascribing human qualities to non human things or entities. Past work has found that when participants anthropomorphize a planet via poster drawings, this increases their connection to nature and their pro environmental behavioral intentions. And this picture right here on your right hand side is actually a real life poster drawing from one of the participants in that study about 10 years ago. In our lab, we examined the pets as ambassadors hypothesis, which says that pet relationships can promote pro environmentalism. In their study, they found that people who view their pets as possessing stronger emotional experiences or warmth showed greater pro environmentalism through their conservation beliefs and behavioral intentions. However, perceptions of pet agency or competence did not. This highlights my earlier point about how we value perceptions of warmth far more than perceptions of competence when making those judgments. For the present study that I'll be discussing today, we were wondering if the pets as ambassadors hypothesis could be extended a step further. While this shows how pet relationships can promote pro environmentalism, we're wondering if our perceptions of the planet itself along those dimensions of warmth and competence can be used to promote pro environmentalism. And that's what we're doing today. We're manipulating those perceptions. To do this, my advisor and I constructed a fictitious passage, just a couple paragraphs long, featuring an interview by a Princeton professor of earth sciences. This was used to establish some credibility within our participants and make our study a little more believable. For this, they were all the same except for the last two paragraphs, which I will show on the next slide and give you all just a second to read them. They could have been in one of four possible conditions, with the wording changed between each of those four conditions. The second to last paragraph is shown here. Participants either read the words in red, which depicted the planet as warm and caring and friendly, or the words in blue, which depicted the planet as cold and mean. Then, in our last paragraph, participants either read the words in purple, which depict the planet as competent and ambitious, or the words in dark blue, depicting the planet as incompetent and lazy. So they read one of 4 variations of this. Afterwards, we assess their emotions like pity, admiration, contempt, and envy corresponding to red arrows, and their behavioral intentions like protecting nature or harming nature corresponding to the blue arrows. We also assess several pro-environmental outcome measures. This includes pro-environmental beliefs, empathy towards nature, and behavioral intentions. Through a statistical procedure called a multiple regression, we found that feelings of admiration and pity predicted greater sustainability outcomes through their behavioral intentions, nature empathy, pro-environmental beliefs, but feelings of contempt and envy did not. What this means is that warmth-driven emotions of admiration and pity predicted these outcomes regardless of the perceived competence level of the planet. This again highlights my earlier point about how we value perceptions of warmth far more than perceptions of competence. So this mirrors past research in the field. This also supports the need for emotion-based climate change awareness campaigns, as that has shown to increase people's nature empathy and pro-environmental behavioral intentions rather than just presenting cold, hard facts. Thank you.